then you want to seed start them. But if you want to make sure that you don't have any mishaps, you can just wait 2 weeks after your frost date and seed start them. Hello everybody and welcome back. This is Not a Pro Gardener here. We are in Zone 6B for new subscribers. Today we're going to be talking about our seed starting schedule that we came up with for Zone 6B. We are in the lower half of that zone. I know some people are wondering, what are we going to be seed starting next? And we are just going to be showing you an overview of how we map out our garden season, and we're going to show you the dates and pretty much talk about the mechanics of how we come up with this and all this and that. So we're in the greenhouse talking about this because it's about 35 degrees outside. It's pretty cold, but we have a full sun day, and a full sun day in the greenhouse means it's about 80 to 90 degrees in here with the door closed. So we have the door open, lots of ventilation in here for these onion seed starts, so there's no worries there. Now we're going to be going through our Zone 6B seed starting schedule to help determine what we are going to be seed starting next and when, and to kind of share our successes of planting with this planter. And we're doing this to help keep track of things and maybe help you get a little organized and help keep track of things, so you don't say, oh, I forgot to seed start that, and then you're 2 weeks behind and may cause some issues. It helps a lot to have an organized plan schedule in your hand, so you don't have to think, was I supposed to seed start this 2 weeks ago, or was I supposed to be doing this or that? So I can literally pull up my notebook, go down to cabbage, and it'll tell me what week or days that I need to get this seed started. So we're going to talk about some of the most important things or steps that you need to have done before you start mapping this whole garden season out. So let's go ahead and get to it and talk about it. Now, some of the things that you have to know is your last frost date. So my last frost date, I found that out. There's these websites online you can look at, and I'm sure there's other ways, but this is how we do it. We just type in our zip code online and find out when our last frost date is and what zone we have. Ours is April 10th. That whole week around the 10th, that week section there, it's not changed in the last couple years. It's been pretty the same, so I haven't worried about changing that. So you want to find out what your last frost date is, and that will determine what you do from there mostly. Now you need to find out what you want to plant, what seeds you want to order, the varieties and such. You want to get all these seeds put together according to the growing space. So I have some raised beds and some in-ground gardens, so I map it out with my feet in the in-ground garden for the space in between the rows that I want, and find out what I want to put in it from there. And I usually leave an open space at the end somewhere so I can fill it with something, because I'm sure I'll forget about something in a tray that needs to go in the ground, because there's just a lot going on sometimes and you just forget. It's not a big deal. Okay, so when I do this, I go down my list, and I'll show you, this is the list I started out with, and at the end here I'll show you my finished product. After 3 years of doing this, I have moved the dates a little bit around to kind of make it better for me, because I've had some shortcomings. You seed start something 6 to 8 weeks and the transplants just ain't big enough for you, so you got to wait another week or so. That's why I'm saying all my dates on this planner that I came up with are just estimated weeks. My planner, I don't have dates, I just have weeks. So I do January, first week, second week, third week, and fourth week, and then I have that whole week to get that seed starting done. And since there's just so many things, I've broken it up. There's some things that I could have seed started earlier, but I have them in the places they are for the most important things first. So this is the first one that I've come up with. It's a pretty rough draft. I didn't want to fine-tune it till I knew these dates would work, and 3 years in a row these dates have been very successful in my opinion. I have transplanted everything on this list, and there's some things that I've transplanted that I find out work better just direct seeding in the ground, such as beets and also spinach. I have successfully transplanted both, but I found out that I don't have to waste that time and effort on it because I've had better success direct seeding it. Not to say that works for everybody, but this is for our situation in Zone 6B to accommodate our growing needs for our spaces we have here. Now, whenever you're ordering your seeds, you want to get stuff you know that you're going to eat. You just kind of keep that in mind. You want to get stuff that you know you're going to eat or preserve for the future. That helps out a lot with planning. All right, I'm going to try to show you this up close, and if it doesn't look very clear in the video, I might edit in a picture of it on the side over here or something. So this is my finished product that I've came up with this. Well, it's not necessarily a product, but this is the finished schedule for me. So every year, December comes around, I have this schedule hanging on my indoor seed starting station. Say that 5 times fast. I have it sitting there hanging up on the rack so I can see it. January, February, March. So this is what it looks like. It's kind of hard to get it all in the picture here. If it's not very clear, I'll pop up a picture of it, but let's say I got January, February, March, April. The blue is the cold season, and the orange is the warm season stuff that I need to seed start on just this side. This other side over here is direct seeding. That's a little more of a rough estimate there. But the way I got this set up is, let me try to get in close here. Okay, so January, I have first week of January, I have 1 week to get these onion seed started. Could be plus a week before, you know, the end of December I could get them seed started, or the first week of January or the second week of January I could do that. I have it kind of flexible that way because you want to watch your own weather in your own zone and determine, well, do I need to be seed starting these this early? So usually my onions I do 8 to 10 weeks before I want to get them transplanted in the garden. So I don't do this anymore, but the second week of January I would seed start my spinach, and the 4th week celery I've found has been pretty good for me in my zone. So I transplanted them roughly, I think it was 6 to 8 weeks. I transplanted them out in the garden, and they took a really long time to get going. And I believe they need light to germinate as well. But on the sides here, let me come in close, I got the germination, optimal germination temperatures that I've found for me. Inside, this is all indoor seeding for me. I've had the best success with that, but of course I never had a greenhouse either. So then I got February. I got my first week, I got these, I got a seed start. Second week, these guys. And then my third week are, you know, broccoli, beets, and 4th week kale. Now, for me, selling plants or giving them away to people, I do tomato plants. Okay, so I start those the 4th week of February into the 1st week of March. I have that whole last week there of February, which goes into March, to get those seeds started, which is like roughly 600 tomato plants, but I plant seed more than what I need because I have a feeling that some of them are not going to make it and I want to have plenty. Tomato seeds ain't that bad. They're fairly they survive in the fridge for a long time, so you can buy them in pretty big packs and save them. Now, March, I have a lot going on in March. Some of this stuff is herbs down here. I don't necessarily need to do like thyme, tarragon, and garlic chives because those are like a one and done kind of thing. If you take care of them, they come back yearly. They come back for me every year. Now, all this stuff, usually on the warm season side, takes priority for this month. These other things like radishes, rutabagas, I probably won't do that this year. That's something that we didn't really care for. The radishes is kind of a novelty for us to put in salads. You know, it's not a big deal. But in April, I have seed started okra and watermelon and some of my flowers like zinnias, stuff like that. And that has been pretty successful for me. I don't know if I'll be seed starting okra again. It just depends on how much room I have and how many I want to be done. You know, I've had pretty good success with that. Last time I direct seeded out of my Haas garden cedar the okra, and that really worked out good. and I didn't have any problems with it. It was like a one and done thing. I didn't have to put drip tape down. They don't need a whole lot of water or nutrients, so it kind of helps out. So let's go over to the direct seed part of this portion here, if you can see that. Those are all varied by a week like the rest of this. So instead of putting dates on these like the 27th or whatever, I just put that whole week down and then put multiple things in that week. So I have that 1 week to get that done, and it's just not so complicated. I don't have to go, oh, I didn't seed start that on this exact day, so I'm going to be off. No, it doesn't matter like that for me. I give myself that week plus or minus a week depending on the weather, and that's good enough for me, and that's never steered me wrong. So that's been pretty successful for me. Let me pop it back up if you need another second to maybe check it out, but hope the camera's picking that up good. It's hard to tell from here. But anyway, I've had very good success with that, and that covers a lot of food. One of the things I didn't have on there was Swiss chard, and probably a couple other things there's probably not on there, but I'm probably going to direct seed my Swiss chard like I direct seed beets now. I exclusively direct seed beets because it's that much easier, and if I want to thin them I can, but I usually don't. So with the Swiss chard this year, I'm definitely going to be treating them like beets and just do the same thing, unless you guys put in the comments below that I need to do something different. Don't treat them like beets, but that's just what I'm going to do this year. I'm going to try to grow more greens. This stuff really helps if you have your seeds organized, okay? So I got mine in 2 separate binders, and you'll see it probably in the next video when I talk about my varieties and what I'm planting. I got my warm season binder and my cold season binder, and I keep them in a bag in the fridge. So they're also separated by varieties like tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, all warm season stuff separated in pages. And the cold season the same. They're all kind of clumped. They're like brassicas together, and lettuce, all that stuff sectioned out in its own little spot. And I do this because if I walk in there and I just got a box full of seeds, it's really hard to find something. I could easily overlook something, and that seed that I bought might not even get planted or direct seeded. It just might get skipped over, and I can't have that. Organization has helped me out a lot with not skipping over anything. Now, whenever you get there, you want to look at the back of the seed packet. You pick your seed out, and if you look on the back of it, it'll say, let's say tomatoes, I believe it's like 6 to 8 weeks before you want to transplant them in the ground, or your last frost date. So I usually get my stuff in as soon as I possibly can in the ground. And for tomatoes, there's a lot of stipulations, like you got to have 50 degrees in your ground temperature, and 45 to 50 degree nights. You can't have anything below that, or they'll go in a dormant stage. So I got it set as April 10th is my frost date. For 6 to 8 weeks, probably before then, is when I seed start them. I got tomatoes down in 2 places on here. I got the tomatoes for sale, and I got the tomatoes here for my normal seed starting date. I usually start these other ones earlier so they get to a bigger size, but for me, I like the smaller size. They have less transplant shock, so sometimes I do seed some a little later in case I have a mishap or something happens with the transplants and the other ones. And usually that's how you figure that out, is you find out how many weeks before you find your frost date, and you want to find out how many weeks before that off the back of the seed packet or growing information from the seed company on when you want to seed start it. So that'll be April 10th. You want to go 6 to 8 weeks before that, and then you want to seed start them. But if you want to make sure that you don't have any mishaps, you could just wait 2 weeks after your frost date and seed start them. Even if your frost date is the 2nd week in April, I could still, just to give myself that little insurance, because sometimes, even if I do put them in as early as possible, we could still have a rogue frost come in and wipe everything out. And that has happened before, and I had to cover the plants with cloches and stuff like that, and plastic, and that wasn't the best way, that wasn't the best use of my time, but it had to be done. That was a lot of plants to cover. But so I could just wait 2 weeks later to put them in the ground, and then I wouldn't have that problem for the most part. It still could happen, but usually If you want to be safe, wait 2 weeks later to plant everything, or 2 weeks later than to seed start stuff, and that will kind of be like an insurance policy. You don't have to worry about that. So instead of me seed starting these tomatoes the first week of March, I would just do it the third week of March if I didn't want to have to worry about a rogue frost coming in, and that would help. Not saying it's going to prevent, but that would help with that problem. You know, you don't have to plant everything as early as I do or as early as you can. There's always that leeway as you can wait. You know, you don't have to be pressurized into anything. And if you buy plants, you can just wait till that time comes and buy them, put them in the ground, as long as the night temperatures and ground temperature is about what you need to be, you know. All in all, my interpretation of these estimation of weeks that I have here depends on your weather, and they can be pushed back or moved up sooner depending on the ground temperatures and the night temperatures. So you don't fret about specifics. You still have time. I just like to get things in as soon as possible to get the most growing time out of my growing. I think I have 191 roughly growing days in our growing season, and I usually try to push it and grow as much as I can. We like to preserve a lot of food, which helps out with food costs for us. I leave them like this 1 week to seed start everything, plus or minus a week. I could change that date if I wanted to. This is just the dates that I can put in my phone calendar for that week for me to get this seed start done, and I kind of map it out like that. That way I'm not pressurized to get it done on the weekend or something like that. I just do it at my leisure, you know. That way I can change them to benefit me. So I hope you took something away from this garden seeding video. It's nice to have the organization and the schedule lined up. You know, it's not for everybody, and some people don't plant as many things as I do, but I'm just showing you how we do it here at the Not a Pro Garden, Zone 6B. If you forgot, don't forget to plan your garden out. There's nothing worse than buying too many seeds and you can't plant them all. Better to plan it out than to just push them back on the shelf and not use them, you know. Hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you like, shared, subscribe, and ring that bell to get notified every time I come out with a new video. This is Not a Pro Gardener here. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.